I don't want to in this meeting say, yes, do this or do that. I just want to
No.
expand your mind and think about some of the more pros and cons that maybe you hadn't thought about. Hey, pet photographer Monique here, sitting in the green room, my home office, and I'm about to hop online with a special guest. Hopefully you are on the Pro Pet Photog email that comes out every Friday right before the YouTube videos. I had put out a offer for people on that list that you can get a free one-to-one with me if you would be so kind as to give permission to air that meeting on YouTube, which is what you're about to watch. And so Lisa was the very first person who popped up in my email inbox, said, I want to do this. Now, I have done one-to-one call with Lisa before, so I know her a little bit. She is in our Pro Pet Photog Facebook group. I'm very excited to chat with her again. It's been a few months since we talked and see where we're at. The plan today is to take a look at her gallery, her portfolio. I know Lisa posed a couple of other questions that we might get to in the talk today. And so this video is meant to give you a little bit of what it's like to do a one-to-one meeting with me. Now, if you're interested in actually booking one of those, that's on propetphotog.com. I believe it's on the main page. Scroll down a little bit and there's a way to book a one-to-one with me, and you can have a similar experience to what I'm going to do with Lisa here today. Lisa, thank you so much for volunteering.
You're welcome.
To do this chat and put it up on YouTube. I'm excited to share with everyone and see what I can do to help you today.
Sweet.
Yay. So how you doing?
Doing great. Yeah, so far so good. 2020, off to a good start.
It's 2022.
Right. See? Off to a good start.
I know what you mean. There's that joke that it's 2022, like again.
Right? Yeah, let's not repeat it, right? It's like Groundhog Day.
It's a do-over.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so Lisa, just for the people at home, I did a little intro before, but you own Posh Photography. Yes. Yep. And you are in what state?
Minnesota.
Minnesota in the United States. Yay. Yes. Yep. So we're in winter right now.
Mm-hmm. We certainly are.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've met once before. So it's fun to get to see you again.
Likewise.
Yay. And Lisa's part of the Facebook group too, and we've had some conversations in there. So I'm always happy to meet other Pro Pet Photogs.
It's nice. We got to stick together. I keep saying it's a very lonely pursuit, this dog photography business.
Right.
And I feel like, I need to bounce ideas off of people, but like Snickers is great, but she won't really tell me what she thinks because she can't speak my language. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And like my birds, they give me ideas for Twitter and that's it.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Like people always say, oh, you can talk to yourself as long as you don't answer. I'm like, no, I need answers.
Exactly.
I will answer myself. So today we had a couple of ideas of what to go over. I've got on my second screen over here the gallery of images you sent me, so we could talk about that. We can go over your portfolio. I know you had some other just general business questions as well. What is top of mind for you today, Lisa?
So if we have time, we can go over the portfolio.
Okay.
What I really wanted to pick your brain about is I have an opportunity to open a studio. So right now I'm an outdoor photographer strictly. Mm-hmm. It's Minnesota here, right? At least 6 months out of the year, best for you, right? It's people don't necessarily want to be outside to photograph. I don't necessarily want to be outside to photograph. Though I love it. I love the winter look, right? But business really drops off. Mm-hmm. And so I have been looking for a studio for a while. But I had some criteria, so it took a while. So I finally found one that I like. In the location I like, it has a room for in-person sales. So I could move, right now I'm doing in-person sales over Zoom. Mm-hmm. So I could move everything to in-person sales, whether or not shot in the studio. And then add on the studio for people who want it and also for winter to hopefully boost the income. Mm-hmm. So a couple concerns, as you know, I do this part-time, right? So I have a full-time gig. that's not photography. um, so, moving in-person sales to a studio, I'm sure would be beneficial in terms of getting higher sales. That said, I need to balance it with it's more time away from home. It requires a trip to the studio. It requires having samples at the studio, setting it up, taking it down, cleaning for other people because it's a group studio. Um, so I'm a little torn about that. And then if I were to do the studio, it's month to month, but they were requiring a year commitment first. And I'm a little concerned about the cash flow. I do have some, but not all of the year's worth saved. I mean, I could essentially pull all of it, but that would drain me below a number I'm comfortable with. So I was doing some thinking about how to make that up and how to straddle both worlds. And I know you do that. I had some ideas. I work with a charity dog rescue, so I could do mini type sessions in the studio and make them different from my normal studio session. I can reach out to my email list, which has 200 and some people on it at this point. Reached out to past clients. I'm looking at some business partner marketing. All that stuff is still in the works. I don't have anything right now. I can execute in the next, couple months, but I don't have anything right this minute. I'm kind of go back and forth. I'd love to open the studio. The time seems right to me. They're flexible. They need somebody to start by May 1st, but I could do it earlier if I wanted to. And May 1st is kind of the start of the summer season here. So I'd probably like to do it earlier just to get bang for my buck, right? And get a little more opportunity for return on investment. I have some studio equipment, but I don't have all of it. So things like I need at least one decent light, a good modifier. I don't have any furniture. I don't have any backgrounds. So that would be another cost. I ran the numbers. I think I can do it. But I'm also concerned of splitting them. I don't want to split my market, right? I don't want somebody who, I don't want the same pool of people to be split in half. I want two pools of people, twice as many clients, if that makes sense. So that's what's on my mind. That's what I think about all night long.
Okay. So I took some notes.
Okay.
All right. So let me clarify. The studio space is a shared space with other photographers.
Yes.
So whatever you take in, you have to take home. Like you don't have your own sales area. You don't have your own shooting area.
Well, it's a shared space, but I'd have storage there. So I could leave my studio lights there. I could leave my big modifier there. I could leave the backgrounds there. I could leave my samples there. So I could have two sets of samples. I could have a sample set there and a sample set here to take when I go do the art shows. I don't know if I want to invest in two sets of samples at this point.
Right.
But I don't know if I want to go back and forth either.
Okay. But essentially you have to break everything down every time.
Yeah. Right. Yes. So I'd have to move stuff to the corner and clean and put everything back and all that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So just wanted to get a feel for the space. And then it sounds like you had two criteria for wanting to do this. One is you have for real winter there. So you can have indoor sessions through those few, like up to 6 months of the year.
Yeah.
Because like for me, I always tell people, let's do some outdoor snow pictures. And I don't get very many people who want that. It sounds great, but, and it just has to be perfect to do that. And then, so indoor sessions in the winter for sure. And also the summer, places to meet people also in person. So I guess that kind of goes hand in hand. And then the other one, and places to meet people.
Yes.
So in person. And do you meet anyone in person now for the sales or consult?
Rarely. If they ask for it, I will. It started out as, we were still in the pandemic, so I had to do it via Zoom. And then it just kind of became a nice convenience for me because truly I could meet somebody like over a lunch hour if they wanted to meet during the day and just come down in my office and do it for an hour. It's harder to meet them at a coffee shop, right? That's a different commitment, especially when I'm doing this part-time. If I can get away with meeting them at Zoom for at least the consult and then do the session and the in-person sales in person, that would cut down on one meeting.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. One of the things I was thinking was, let me turn off my email real quick. It makes a noise. Because one of the things I was thinking, if primarily you wanted a space just to meet clients, you could just rent a small office space somewhere. But if you want to also meet clients and have that indoor shooting space, it sounds like this could be a nice stepping stone for you. And I'm really glad that you've done the numbers, especially like, are you a member of PPA?
I'm a member of my local
Okay.
PPA, so I don't know if that means I'm also like the national PPA. I'm not sure how that works.
I'm not sure either. Well, they've done some studies and they say, owning a studio, obviously you have a ton more expenses. So your profit coming home can be smaller. So I'm glad that you've run the numbers because it is a huge commitment to rent a studio, especially as a part timer. So you're thinking you're going to maybe be there only 4 days a month, maybe, right? And then do you have to like split the time at the studio? Is there one shooting space so other photographers could get that space on Saturday before you?
Yes and no. I mean,
Mhm.
yes, it's a shared space. They limit it to like
Okay.
three other photographers.
Oh, okay.
And they limit, so unless you're, like, they make exception for mini sessions, but they ask that you only rent it for 4 hours at a time. So
Mhm.
for that very reason, because when I met with the owner, that was one of my questions, and she said she was part of a different studio and she could never get any time because it was always booked.
Okay.
So especially, I mean, probably for me, realistically, it would also be like weekday sales sessions and then weekend shooting sessions
I
is
see.
probably what I would do.
Okay. So you'd have an opportunity to squeeze a little bit more out of that space being a part-timer. And obviously, I don't know if this is obvious or not, but are dogs allowed there?
Yeah,
So, okay.
I asked that, and she said yes. In fact, one of the business partners, it's in a strip mall in suburbia, and the space next door is a dog grooming salon. And it
Ah.
turns out that somebody, my good friends, before this all came, for years and years, they've gone to that place.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and I've been there too. It's pretty
Okay.
cool. So yes, dogs are allowed. I asked about that specifically.
Okay.
She's asking for a cleaning waiver, so I'm going to put that in my contract that if
Mm.
there's any, because you have to walk down a hallway that's carpeted, that's a common area to get into the space. The studio space is hardwood, so
Oh, nice.
but yeah,
Yeah.
obviously clean up the stuff right away and all that. But I put it in my contract now. If I go forward with this, that if something happens and there's a damage that is financial, then the client's responsible for it. That way, I probably wouldn't pull the trigger, right? But at least I'm protected if I have to be.
Yeah, and that could be covered under insurance too, Lisa. Because I think that's a fear of people with dogs is that they are going to break something. And so if you kind of lead with that, they might not want to come in. I'm just kind of thinking
Yeah.
psychology wise.
Right.
So I would check with your insurance on that as
Okay.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So from my perspective,
Yeah.
I don't
That's
want
why
to
I'm asking. Yeah.
I don't want to dissuade you from this, but just from my one experience is
Mhm.
when I first started renting my space, I did share it with another photographer. And my personality did not do well with that. They were almost never there. So I had time to go there whenever I wanted, but it was very branded to her. And we were going to like split it up and everything. But every time I walked in there, it did not feel like my space. I couldn't put up my samples. I couldn't say welcome to, my studio. And I suppose if there's several people there and it's mostly just a blank canvas, they know you're just walking into kind of this warehouse studio space. That's different. But I really realized very quickly that I did not like sharing a space. um, so there's that. If you're worried about, okay, I want my clients to come here and this be my space and keep my pictures up on the wall and have my flavor and my whole brand here, it's just something to consider. And when you first go into it, you're like, no, no, I'm good because I want to save money and share this space. Which, quickly I ended up with the space myself just because of her life circumstances. But that's one thing to consider in a space like that. It wouldn't be branded to you, and the cost savings might be worth it. Is that something you think would be a concern?
So kind of, but also not.
Okay.
So I'm sure it was an office space at one point. So there's like this front area,
Mhm.
that's the sales area, and she's got like shelves set up. So everybody keeps their samples, and then you put up your own samples, right? So it would
Mhm.
feel posh like,
Okay.
because my samples would, even if I'm doing a studio session, right? Like I would have those samples up.
Mhm. Okay.
Um, so
Okay.
without a lot of work, I mean, it'd probably take 10 minutes to put everything up and take it back down. I will say that way back in the day when I did different type of portrait photography, I shared a studio.
Mhm.
Um, and I didn't mind it.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose if you could take if they're okay with you taking everything down, the way that I had it set up, her samples were still on the wall and she shot very different than me. And I was like,
Oh,
no, I don't
yeah.
want people to see her stuff and get it confused with my
Right.
stuff. Yeah. So if you're okay with kind of doing the tear down setup every time, this could be a nice stepping stone to kind of figure out, is this something you want? Is this something your clients want?
Right.
Right? Because one of the things that I did for many years was just take my entire studio to their home. So if we had a winter indoor session, it was in their dining room or their living room. And so we just set up all that stuff at their house. So that's still an option. It's a lot of work. It's not like just driving to town and open the door and here's your space. So
Yeah.
a couple things to think about. It's a big choice, but I know that you're very strategic in everything you do. So I feel good that you've, kind of run the numbers, thought of some ways to make it financially work and work for your clients. Now, you did touch on marketing. How do you get your clientele is all outdoor right now, and I'm looking at your portfolio. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. You've got all of the outdoor spaces. Uh, but will the same people that are hiring you for that or their friends or whoever be okay with doing studio?
Right.
Are you going to have to market them separately? Things like that. And I've struggled with that as well. Colorado, ooh, it's so pretty, y'all. Everybody wants to be in the mountains of Colorado. And that's kind of what I thought for a long time. Like, oof, is anyone really going to want a studio space? And it turns out people are like, just wherever you want to go. And so you don't really even see the mountains where I am. Like, we're just in a field with some cottonwoods. Okay, it's outdoor, it's Colorado, but that ended up being a non-issue. Uh, so what it's been good for me is the choice. So I love marketing my studio as custom. I want to fulfill their vision. And I'm a little bit different. I'm going to probably get pushback from other people, but I don't really have like a signature look. I'm not like this. I only do dogs in the woods, or I only do at the beach or only studio. I don't really have that. I kind of do it where how can I meet their needs?
Yeah.
So like this week, I had a session in the studio. It was an older dog who'd had several bouts of cancer. We just wanted to get some really beautiful headshots on a dark background, really show the personality of this dog. So studio is perfect for them.
Great.
I had done another session with them outside at their beautiful yard, so he was okay with having this mix of looks, but I love giving them the option. And so I don't really market them separately. What I try to do is I pepper them all together. And so if you ever look at my website, I have some that are kind of like these things on the wall. That's in the yard. This is more studio.
Right.
And the kitty looks more studio. I just pepper them all together.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really like a super specific niche photographer. So I don't think it's going to be that difficult. Um, I will say, like, summer months, people typically don't want to come to the studio. That is still the time they want to go, or the fall where it's
Right.
beautiful.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit harder to get people into the studio if they really want outdoors. So just kind of consider that. I don't think the marketing is going to be as difficult as you think. Um, I love the ideas you've already come up with, though, to bring people in and give them the taste of that with your minis and pairing up with a business partner or a rescue, because then someone who maybe doesn't know your brand yet and hasn't worked with you, this could be a small taste of what it's like to work with you, what the studio experience is like, and they can decide, maybe later they'll do their whole set of animals somewhere with you. So I really like having that choice too. For me, a lot of it comes down to giving them choices.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you've got some good ideas in mind, pairing up, doing the minis, your pet partners, um, letting past clients know. And if you do it and you go forward, you have a nice email list. You can make this a big splash. Like, oh my gosh, look at this. We're doing this now. This is going to be so great. This option is great for, again, the elderly dogs, the dogs that are reactive that you don't want to take to the park. That was my dog this week, was not only old, but reactive. The ones that are puppies, maybe they're not supposed to be at the park yet. There's a lot of pluses to going to the studio. They can bring props if they want that just nice, clean black backdrop or brown or whatever. We can just do a study of the dog. So that's kind of how I sell the studio experience. But you try to get as much variety as you can as you do the outside. So when you're thinking of, okay, how am I going to get variety? Some people just cannot walk into a studio and think of anything to do. Like, it's too blank. Because when you're outside, you have, okay, they're going to sit on this rock and then the bench, and then we're going to have trees behind, and we're going to have a field behind, and we're going to have the sky behind. You have built-in props.
Right.
So when you get to the studio, how can you make enough photos to fill out a whole order for them? So that's where maybe having 2 or 3 different backdrops, having a couple pieces of furniture, encouraging them to maybe bring one prop for one set of photos. So that's a challenge that you're going to have in studio if you're mostly outdoor. Have you thought about things like that?
Yeah, a lot. And I've been secretly looking at furniture. So if I can, like, I feel kind of bad, right? Because, like, my wife knows. It's not like she doesn't know, but, like, it feels kind of torrid. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So because what I wanted, like, it's wide open, right? Like, I'm trying to figure out, like, what my own style is. And I like the simplicity of it, because when you're outside, right, like, oh my God, there's so much going on, and there's this twig this way, and like, it's overwhelming sometimes. And I think for me that, like, I want to serve the clients, certainly, but I also have this need of, like, can we just make it about the dog? Can we simplify it? Can we just have a piece of furniture, beautiful wraparound light, maybe a hair light if it's a darker dog, and make it be about the dog, right? Like, let's have the dog lay down. Let's have the dog do, turn the furniture different ways, different poses on the furniture, kind of that timeless, classic, simple, not as picky as PPA, but in that vein, right? Like, not that boring. I want some oomph to it, but I really do want it to be just about the dog, because when I'm outside, I'm a landscape photographer by background, right? So I'm always like, okay, where's the landscape to put the dog in? And I kind of want that, like, I don't need to think about that, right? Like, okay, get your light set up. Is it pretty or not, right? And then let's just focus on the dog.
Oh, okay. So let me backtrack a little bit, Lisa. Maybe I misunderstood. Are you going to get rid of your outdoor photography?
No. I need
Oh,
the
okay.
balance. I need them both. I want them both. I don't want to get rid of it.
Okay.
I just need, and for me, I have asthma, so the summertime is really hard. If it's really cold, it's really hard. So for me, I think having that to fall back on too, or if it's raining and the client isn't opposed to it, okay, well, the backup location is the studio, right? Like,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I agree. And I think that what just said is also great things to let the client know. And so when I do my consults, I'll be like, okay, are you primarily like outdoorsy? Do you get out and hike a lot? Do you picture, the woods and everything on your wall in the end? Or do you kind of want to do a study of all the different spots on your dog and the way that his hair is on his nose and, stuff like that? Do you want something more like that? And so you're able to offer either way. And so I just show them both as a highlight. It just depends on their lifestyle and what they want to show in their home.
right.
If they think it would be way too formal to show their black dog in a black backdrop above their fireplace, well then, okay, I guess we're going to go outside.
Right. Yeah.
So some of it kind of comes down to that. What do you want in the end? What do you want to display in your home? So I think you've thought through that really well. And just so you know, you're not a weirdo for shopping for furniture. Every time I go to a furniture store, Target, oh my gosh, don't even walk through Target.
Oh my God.
Everything there is a prop. I never look at furniture. All furniture is props. Antique stores, Target, anywhere. I never see that in my house. I see it in my studio.
Oh my, yeah, because I was like, oh, I can see this like pretty gray dog right on this back, or like, oh, long-haired cat, right? Like, oh, my mind just goes crazy.
Ooh, the arm of that chair would be so cute with a puppy
Mhm.
over it. Oh, all
Uh-huh.
the time. All the time. So you're not strange that way.
It's the
So
same way, like in the summertime when I go to a park, like, oh, dog needs to go there. A dog needs to go there. It's just, oh, my mind is, welcome to my crazy mind.
I'm there with you. I'm there with you. So, I don't want to in this meeting say, yes, do this or do that. I just want to
No.
expand your mind and think about some of the more pros and cons that maybe you hadn't thought about.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think is like, oh, darn, is that it's a month to month, but it's a year commitment.
Yeah.
But the upside to that is that it's only a year commitment. So I know a lot of business owners, they have to sign a 3 or a 5-year lease. And sounds really scary to me if this is an experimental phase.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, that makes my heart stop.
yeah, yeah. The other thing, and you've probably already looked into this, sometimes I think your setup is different, but some places have their base rent plus triple net. So you have to pay this much per month plus, 50% more just for internet and
Mm.
mail service and everything. You got it all. You got all the
Yeah, it's
numbers from
one
them.
rate, and
Okay,
it's in my, like,
great.
it's the going rate, right? And
Okay,
for what it
good.
is, I would say it's very reasonable for what it is.
Okay. And
Yeah.
just as long as you know all the numbers, it can be like for anyone else watching this video, if you're looking at an office space or somewhere, be prepared for that number to be different. Whatever that it's listed for a place to rent, add 50% a lot of times for all the other services that come with it. So I'm glad you're already on board with knowing all of that. So I think there's a ton of perks for having a studio. And really, the biggest downside is the cost. And knowing and really thinking about your life and going, yes, it's worth it for me to spend that time at at the studio, say, instead of at your home. So like right now we're sitting in my home office, which I love. I have my dog right here. When something is chugging away in the background on my computer, I can go cook dinner. There's a lot of perks to having your office
Oh
and
yeah.
everything you do at home, right? So will you not ever really want to go to your studio? So I think you've kind of balanced that out as well. I find that the great thing about the studio is then you don't have to think of which coffee shop do they live nearby? Where should we meet? Should we do this? Should we do that? No, my times are at this exact location at these times. That really just simplifies everything. Clients I have found are very appreciative of that. We're not going to meet in a random coffee shop. You will come to my studio. And I thought I would have pushback on that, and I have not.
Yeah.
They really appreciate that. So that's what I have found.
Do
Um,
you, if they've decided they want to do the studio, or even if they don't, do you ask that they bring their dogs so you can meet them?
yeah, I give them a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously in the last couple of years, a lot of consults have been over the phone,
Right.
things like that, or repeat clients that already know me. But yeah, I definitely say bring your dogs to the consult. That makes people feel a lot better. I will tell you that it doesn't seem to make a difference at the session. And I know a lot of other people who teach pet photography, they insist on meeting the dog ahead of time so the dog gets to know you and the place isn't scary. They really don't remember that. I'm sorry. But
It's no different than the dog who's been at the park 5 million times, and then, like, it doesn't, it still
yeah.
doesn't matter.
So to me, I don't make it a prerequisite. I don't have to meet their dogs.
Okay.
Unless they're really, really worried about their dogs interacting with me. I did have a client this last fall who made sure to bring both their dogs because they thought they would be they're kind of more of a timid dog. And so they didn't think the dog would really want to get along with me. And I think I had a couple clients like that last year. And they brought them in and, you kind of sit on the floor, sit back, wait for them to come to you, give them treats. It's a nice, secure space. They could be off leash if you want them to be. And it was great. So meeting those dogs was really good for the client.
So
So the
it's for the
client can
client, it's
see,
not the dog. Yeah.
yeah, so the
Yeah.
client can see, okay, my dog likes you. Now that doesn't mean the dog's going to like you in a week when he sees you for the session.
Right. Yeah. It's no
um,
different than kids or toddlers or whatever. I mean, yeah.
Cats, especially like cats, they can meet you today, tomorrow they have no idea who you are and they're going to hide under the bed. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't make it a prerequisite, but I do encourage it if they want to. You know, I say, come in, let your dogs roam around, that kind of thing. But sometimes it's just too much for the client to try to do all that because they're so focused on the dog. They're not really hearing about anything else that's going to happen during the experience with you.
That's what I found is if I'm trying to talk to them about something, they're worried about their dog, right? Like it's almost better if they're not there so they can focus.
Yeah, yeah. So I give them a choice. I just straight up tell them, you know, if you're worried about your dog getting to know me, then definitely bring them and knowing the location, things like that. But we don't necessarily have to. If it's easier for you to not bring your dogs or your pets or whoever, it'll be just fine. We'll have extra time at the session that they can get to know the area. And a lot of people have very friendly dogs who are fine in every situation.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, cool. And sometimes you want that novelty. So
Right.
you want the dog to kind of be seeing this for the first time, like this is cool. So it's just, you know, case by case. And so I think one of the things to think about, Lisa, is what is the one thing holding you back from trying this?
The finances, your
Mhm.
commitment.
Okay.
If it were just me, I'd probably do it in a heartbeat, but I'm married.
Yeah.
It's not just about me.
Yeah.
Um, so I want, and tonight we're having a financial date so she can
Oh,
see, here's the plan, like here's what I have saved, right? Here's the plan to make it up. And it's not, she's totally supportive. It's not like she isn't, but I'm taking it on as you know, I contribute to the household and I don't want to take away from the household if the bottom
oh,
falls
yeah.
off.
Yeah, you're a partnership, right?
Yeah.
It's good to go over that with the people it's going to affect, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, okay, so finances are the big thing. So other things like setting up and tearing down things, that's not a concern. Getting a couple other pieces of equipment, not a concern. Um, you know, spending time away from the house, not a concern. So it's really just comes down to the finances.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, if I had all of it saved, well, I technically do, but I don't want to drain it that far. So I guess
Mhm.
I'm mitigating my own risk if the worst case happens, right?
Yes.
But I would feel better if I had the 12 months, well, 13 months, because that's for a deposit of 1 month. So if I had all of that in my coffers and felt comfortable parting with it if the worst case happened, I'd feel better. But I'm also trying not to dwell on it because I don't want the negative universal energy out there either. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Um, so
Okay. Well, I think it's pretty rare for people to have a year's worth of rent or lease, honestly. Um, so and also having cash flow is smart. So if you wanna pay a few months ahead, there's that. Um, I would I don't again, I don't wanna dissuade you if this is something you really wanna do, but look at what happens if you do have to break the lease. What's the worst that could happen? Oh, okay, you owe another month or something. Or I find sometimes, and I had this conversation with someone recently, um, there's always the and I can't remember exactly how the conversation went, but sometimes the biggest hurdle is just making that decision. And so sometimes it's let's play a game. I love this game. This is we're gonna pick 6 months. Lisa, it's been 6 months since we've talked. You are going to rent that studio. How's it going? How has the last 6 months been?
fantastic. It's going well. Had lots of people in my studio, lots of people outside. It's a good balance. I'm loving the freedom of just being at the studio and separating my home life from the studio life.
Ooh.
And, I was worried about cash flow. Hasn't been an issue.
Oh, were you able to have some of the events there that you wanted to have?
Totally. I had
Oh,
new people in the studio. We had for charity, we had a couple charities,
ooh.
and the boutique downstairs is sending me clients. We're going to have a charity thing in the fall. Um, and, the people who I thought would want an outdoor session have said, actually, I want both. Let's do a joint session. Okay, cool.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Okay, so having played that game, Lisa, how does that help?
I can see that happening.
Yeah, right? It's really not as big a stretch as we think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because 'cause you've been in business for a while. You've got clients, you have very good connections in your community, right? Because you've been doing so many of those events last year.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
this is what I found. I don't know if you find this. This is also weird in my brain. But so if I took like you, I took a good month off at the holidays, right?
Nice.
So I was like, okay, I don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
But then I got back into it and I sent a few, like I responded to emails, and one of the things I want to do is part of my session fee. So I sat down and I thought about, okay, if nobody orders anything, what's the amount that I'm comfortable taking time away from my family? Okay, $500. Okay, well, that's my session fee, right?
Yep.
And then I figured out my profit so that, if I refund that, I still get my $500 on the back end after I pay taxes. I figured all that out.
Nice.
And so I figured out the pricing, and then one of the things I want to do is pick a charity, a dog rescue, and take $50 of that session fee and donate it to a charity. And so I sent like 3 emails, and I got a response back right away from all of them. And I'm going to work with one of them. And it turns out that they're having a silent auction. They need somebody to help them with some joint stuff. And I had a great conversation, and they're having bingo night here in a couple of weeks. They asked me to come as a VIP. And it's just from that one, like I put a little bit of energy out into the universe, and it came back in ways I couldn't have even possibly imagined. And that tells me, or I like to think anyway, that this is what my calling is. That I really believe that. And that the universe is helping me do that,
I love it. Wow. Yeah. So you can see that if you did that 5 more times, that effort, not necessarily that exact thing, but if you put those little things like that in place 5 more times, there you go. You're full for the year. You think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Which doesn't translate well. Like that's my creative universal yoga brain, right? I also have the finance side, and the two don't always. Well, that's all nice, but if I were the spouse, like, well, good for you, but like, show me.
Yeah. And that's the difficulty is that we don't know until we do it.
Yeah.
So, good intentions in there, things like that. And I get that there is like, I'm not a super numbers person. So sometimes I do leap for my own self, but I do know that you need to have more of that in place. Really think about that, which you have, and you've got that background. So I'm more of the, let's just try it. Let's try everything. But I know my ways out of those things. So like my rent right now is month to month. If I decide I don't want to be there in March, I'm out, so I've kind of set things up like that. But what happens is, like, I think of like having a kid. You're never ready. Getting married, you're never ready. Buying a house, oh my gosh, you're never ready. Can you imagine, like, the day you bought a house, thinking about you 2 years before that, thinking you'll never be able to buy a house? There's so many things that our brain, like our lizard brain, pushes us away from. Your amygdala works overtime sometimes, like, oh no, stay here. This is safe. You've been doing this. Let's just keep status quo. We all know how to do status quo. So if you have mitigated your risks to the point where, okay, well, if I don't get anyone that comes into the studio this month, can I still pay rent?
Yes.
And what happens is sometimes we make those few phone calls and bam, there we are. It gets us thinking more creatively and gets us reaching out a little bit more, gets us out of our comfort zone a little bit. So I'm probably more of a risk taker than most in that sense. So you'll have to just kind of balance with you and your wife how much risk take you are. Like, saying that about me, my husband's even more of a risk taker. And so he's like, yeah, just really do everything. So you have to kind of think about how that works for you in your life and what you're most comfortable with, and kind of go from there. But I do feel like if you had that kind of success this time of year, people are most apt to spend money and do projects and stuff, I feel like, in third and fourth quarter. Here we are in first quarter, and you're getting this kind of response. That's awesome. So I'm kind of all over the place. I'm trying to be encouraging, but also
No, this is
like,
helpful.
jump off the cliff, Lisa. Go for it.
Monique said I could do it. What are you talking about?
I know. Like, I can talk to your wife. It's okay. She just needs a couple benches from Target and a flash. It's fine. But it might be something where you go, and I've had my studio space for 2 years now, and it's slowly gone up in price. So I think about it all the time. But it's really something that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I'd have been like, oh gosh, no, I'll never be able to do that. And here I am doing it.
Right.
Sometimes it's like you got to give yourself a little bit more credit, I guess, and listen to the universe a little bit. Not that I'm that great at that, but I feel like you immediately answered my question with the 6-month game. Most people go, wait, what are you talking about? You were right there. You could see it, couldn't you?
I can totally see it.
You could
I
see
can
it.
taste it.
You could taste it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. So don't make a decision right now on the phone here.
No. I won't.
But I want you to kind of think about it. I'd love to know how the conversation goes with your wife. She might even come up with some other things that we hadn't thought about as someone. She's not in the photography industry, right? Yeah. So someone who's completely outside of her industry, it's always great to get their insights too.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else have we not talked about with this situation? I just wanted to give you some things to think about.
This has been really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Good. And I feel like you're just really killing it. Even as a part-timer. I don't know where you get your energy. You're active in our Pro Pet Photog Facebook group, and you'll post in there every once in a while things that have come up, and we're like, wow, you're doing great. Like, so I think you're really killing it as a part-time person. And is the idea to maybe take this full-time in the near future, or no? Is this kind of what your path is going to be for a while?
As much as I would like, I mean, again, if it were just me, that's what I would do.
Okay.
My wife is significantly older than I am, and so she's looking at retirement here in the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be the sole breadwinner.
Mm-hmm.
And I still need to contribute to retirement, and I would have to really expand to make up for what I have full time. So
okay. So this
I
is going
don't
to
think
be
so.
kind of your schedule for a while then.
Until I retire, probably.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. So something else to keep in mind. Sometimes, a lot of us will go, okay, we're part-time now, but in a year or two, we want to do this full time. And so then you're thinking like, oh, I could spend all these hours at the studio. Mm-hmm. So that's not where you're at. Okay, good.
Sadly, no.
So that's also a good reason to do a co-working type studio too.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So you're on it. You know what you're doing. Yeah. I'm excited for you. Either way you go.
Thank you.
So you're making it work so far, but I can see where there's some limitations with that because there are only so many hours.
Yeah. And like I've always tried to keep straight in my brain when things are really crazy. Okay, Lisa, you on your computer, your priorities, your wife is first, right? Like that has to come first. And so, we've looked at the summer calendar, and we're going on 2 trips, and those dates are blocked off. So there's 4 weekends in the summer where I'm not even going to be in town. And so, that's my fallback, is I just kind of have to sift through the noise and kind of reshuffle and like, okay, yeah, you could be shooting right now, but this is far more important.
Yeah, I hear you there. What do we always say? I want to work to live, not live to work.
Yeah.
As much as I love my job and I do put a ton of hours in, I'm learning how to take time off and I'm learning how to prioritize. Yeah.
And I may have to delegate. Like right now I do, like bookkeeping can go to somebody, right? Editing can go to somebody. Like I've got that sort of virtual model in my back pocket if I need to. Which will free up a little more time and a little more stress.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw the episode I interviewed Ryan. He has the Fetch photo truck.
Yeah, that was so cool.
Okay, so he's doing that part-time as well. While he's doing photography, like wedding photography all week, but he only does his dog photography on the weekends, just like you. And he's done the same thing. He's kind of strategized. Okay, accountant, he has an editor. He immediately hired an editor. So that's a little bit more freedom that you have when you have your like main income 9 to 5 through the week, is that maybe you have a tiny bit of extra that you can farm out some of those things for your pet photography. So that's perfect. That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yay.
it's also, I won't take, below a certain level. Like last year, I took clients that I lost money on, and I can't.
Ooh, yes. I always love the idea of what's going to make me leave the house.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'm very clear on that this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
$500.
It took me a while to get to that, like,
Yeah.
oh, well, this or that,
Well, yeah, right. Because
but
I want to help everybody, right? But
right.
I can't.
And with limited time,
Yeah.
you don't want to get home from sessions or sales meetings and go, oh, well, was that worth the 8 or 10 hours I put into all that?
Yeah.
So I'm glad you've really truly looked at your numbers, and this is the kind of field where it's an extra for people. So as much as we'd like to give away all of our art, it's not practical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And if we have clients expecting that, then those aren't our clients either.
Right.
Yeah. But that's why you have some of those limited editions, the minis, the fundraisers, things like that. So you can reach some of those people. Yeah. Yeah. So you sent me over the Google. What do you want to hear about your portfolio?
So I think not the PPA hat, but the client hat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you were the client and I delivered this to you as, say, your wall art piece,
Mm-hmm.
or potential for the wall art piece, what would you like about it? What do you not like about it? What would you want to see improved for next time? And any glaring like technical things that you see.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I'm all about like capturing the essence of the dog,
Mm.
which might be hard to tell because it's not your dog, right?
Yeah.
But to the extent you can figure that out, if it feels like intimate, creative, those are kind of my buzzwords. So
Okay.
that's my brand, like
Intimate and
word.
creative.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
And are some of these ones that you're considering for your website kind of highlight reel portfolio?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I think we've done this before, and just for anyone else watching, when I do a portfolio review, it is just for that. It is for sellable images, not contest award-winning images. So I'm going to have a future episode about the kind of the differences on those. So when I do go through, I kind of go, okay, does this look good as a whole group? That if this was what you had on your website, what is out of place? Like the Sesame Street song, one of these things is not like the other. Well, you don't want that on there. And then, which one do I find in my studio is the most sellable, right? So I think I've got it pulled up over here. Ta-da!
Oh, look at
Look
that!
at it. There is everybody. So let's see if I can make it bigger. So this is just under Google. So we're going to run through them here so I can get an overview.
Okay.
Cute, cute, cute. And we're going to love them all because, puppers.
They're dogs, right? How can you
Right.
not?
And I'm looking this way because that's where my second monitor is, but
Go
I
for
can
it.
see them right here too.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, and you photograph people too with their pets. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
I always tell people about 1/3 of the session is with their dog, and
Okay.
2/3 is just the dog.
Okay. Okay.
So when I deliver 20 to 30 images, about 1/3 of them is with them, if that's what they want. They don't have
Gotcha.
to. Yeah.
Spring. I want it to be spring.
I know. I looked at that one too and said,
Oh,
can we have some color, please?
I know, right? Okay. That must have been the end. Oh, it was the last one.
That looks like the last one.
Yeah. So what I can see on this portfolio at this point, especially when I'm looking at the thumbnail, one thing that's kind of throwing me off on this one is I feel like those sprinklers or whatever that is very distracting.
Okay.
And the leash.
Yeah.
So I would say this one, and she's got a thing on her wrist. What are those? Hair tie.
Oh, yeah.
If you could maybe edit out the distracting white streak throughout the background, that might be a little bit better. Maybe crop in a little bit more. That one stood out to me. I immediately just saw the spray of water.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I like the look. They both look very happy. And I like the color. Now, this one is fun action, but you can't see the dog's face.
Yeah.
And the harness is distracting. So I would say, if this was a client that maybe was going to get an album, do you sell albums?
I do.
Okay, yeah, this would be great for an album. Wall art, no.
Okay.
Yeah, so those ones, I love the silhouette so much. I really love that. I love the connection there. I think this would be gorgeous as a metal print. Yes, and a large print, right? Because you have a lot of open space. This one, oops, come back here, Pepperoni. This one I like, but there's grass in front of her eye. So if you could see that eye there, there is green grass right in front of that eye. So if you've got a different one of that dog, she's very striking looking, I would choose a different image. I wouldn't show this one to a client just because the grass is in front of her eyes.
Okay.
That's me. It's a particular. This one I like, but maybe I think I did zoom in here accidentally. It's really, really big, just mostly trees and winter brush. I know that you're trying to do an environmental panorama, but I think it's too much. And I think the leash goes off to nowhere. Now that I'm kind of looking at it a little bit closer, you'd have to edit out the rest of that leash.
Oh yeah.
Can you see that?
Yeah, I sent you the wrong one.
Oh, okay. I would maybe like be more like that. So you still kind of have that feel. I would have probably photographed this dog, maybe leaving a little more in the foreground of that barn. I'm not sure. I don't know how I would do that differently, but I think there's just way too much of the trees. Oh, I can see, yeah, where you kind of edited out the person.
Yeah, it's not the right one.
It's not the right one, yeah.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, I like the idea of a pano and the red barn and the dog and the snow, but I think there's way too much of the trees.
Okay.
Yeah. So for me, yeah. This one, I know this is one of your favorites. I love, it's a little cold, a little cool. It might be a winter picture. But the expression, the hair, the little paws, those beans are freaking adorable. The background's out of focus, but still has texture. Love that. I also love including people. I love including people in dogs. Like, this is beautiful. Everybody looks very happy. This is one of those that people might put in an album, but since the dog is not, you can't see its eyes, they may not want that as a large wall piece.
Yep.
Did they?
They put it in an album, yeah.
In an album, yeah. Yeah. I love this idea. You nailed the focus. He looks very intense too. Like they're both like, let's do this. Let's win the race. This could go either way. Depends on the personality of the people and what they want on their wall. So that's super, super fun. Love the snow in this one. I don't love that there's so much over the dog's face. You could probably really easily edit that because you were probably doing some rapid fire, I would suspect, in here. So you might be able to clone a little bit from another picture and kind of fill in, see that white spot right under his chin? That's pretty distracting. So just maybe take that blob off of his chin there, or her chin.
Okay.
But the snow is just lovely. It is lovely. I like that a lot. I think this is also a very sellable image. Some people are a little self-conscious of their expressions, but I just love how you've got the red leaves just surrounding this whole image. It just seems so warm and autumn, and I just want to go get a coffee.
Pumpkin spice in your future. I love it.
Yes, like take my dog. My dog can get a pup cup. Yes. I'm trying to think. May as well just go through these. I love this too. I love how they're both looking off into the future. This would be great in an album or maybe on a wall. I would like them to both be looking in the same direction. They're kind of a little bit off. You can't always control that. I get it. But they look warm and cozy as well. This would be great as a greeting card as well, because you have all this copy space over on the side. Yeah, love that. I'm just kind of popping around randomly.
Oh, yeah, no, it's good.
Is this the same dog from the
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So this almost looks like a studio piece, right? Yeah. Yeah, very striking. So you can kind of see what your studio work would look like. If it weren't for the droplets on her little beard there,
Right.
that's almost a studio picture. Wow. Let's see. This one I just love. I love how low you got to the ground. The dog's little cockeyed a little bit, like the little tilted head and the ears, just massive. This is exactly your brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this a lot. A little bit of whimsy with the collar. The background really frames everything as does the foreground. Beautiful, gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah. This one, it's like you caught him doing this, like, I'm a model. I'm a model right now. Oh, yes, dear. So I love that too. I do love all the color. I'm trying to decide if the color is too distracting.
I know. I went back
You
and
know?
forth on that too, and I did darken it down on the right corner, but then
Did you?
I don't know, something it lost something in the image. And I
Yeah.
think it's because there's, color in the rest of it and also color in the collar, and it kind of
Mhm.
like makes a triangle to my eye, but I don't
Okay.
know.
Yeah, I think the color does make a difference. Otherwise, 70, 80% of the picture is green and brown.
Yeah.
But I think a client would still buy this. It's a nice full body kind of profile. You can see the coloring on the dog's chest. You can see the light in the eyes. The ears are doing some expression. I think clients would buy this. Yeah. What am I missing? This little pupper also same idea as the other dog that was outside with the green foliage around. I love the kind of squinty eyes and the noble pose. And yeah. And I also like the strategic place of her front leg hiding.
That
Part
was on purpose, yes.
Yeah, people don't wanna see that part of their dog as a big print.
Yep.
So for anyone watching, take note of this particular pose. This is great. Sometimes all you have to do is scooch to the right or left to get that leg in the right spot. Yep.
Yep.
This little pupper, yeah, that's really cute. Love up on the log. I think these are a little soft just because you sent over lower res pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to decide if the tree in the background is too
I
distracting and
know.
like a bench. It almost pulls together the trunk the dog is standing on, but I would be interested to know if you took out that brown trunk and the bench and just made it
Yeah.
all green, what
Yeah.
difference would that make in the photo?
Yeah. Would you
Just
take
try
out
it.
the bench back there too?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
make it all
even the
green?
path. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
have it just be like a greenery back there. Just curious. I
Yeah.
think clients would still buy this. They probably won't even notice that. Um, but our eye is always drawn to the lightest, brightest point of the picture, right? So you can kind of see the path, you can see the bench, and you see this very distinct
Yes.
line. So obviously he's in a park up on a thing. So cute, but I think the client would definitely buy that. It's hard to get those kind of poses with little dogs. What do you do with them? Yeah. This little one out. This is really busy, but this is delightful. Did your client like this one?
She did. She got
Yeah.
that as like a 20 by 30 actually.
Yeah. Yeah. This is I can't usually get dogs to do that. Some dogs will just do it. But I love how this flower is the same like kind of shape as the dog. And she's just down in there with all of them. I just really love that. Again, I wonder what it would look like for this path to be gone.
Yeah,
Just
so I
curious.
did try that, but it's
Yeah.
so there's nothing to pull from on this one
Yeah.
that I could find.
Yeah, yeah, I feel you there. But this is adorable. And this could work just how it is. It could work as a vertical of just her with some of these tulips around her and the purple flowers. There's a lot of ways to go with this. I love the light on the edge of her face there. Um, yeah, her little dress is hysterical. So yeah, that's really sweet. And again, it's so bright and vibrant. I think that kind of goes with your brand as well.
Yeah.
What have I missed? Probably this little guy here.
Yeah.
This is a little close. Did I just zoom in too much? That to me feels too cropped.
Okay.
Yeah. And so again, that could be a nice spread in an album. Maybe you could put his name next to him or something like that. It just seems a little too close.
Okay.
Maybe pull back a little bit. I'm not sure if I would show this. It doesn't have the vibrancy of some of your others. Like as a client will buy this. But on a website, I think you have other ones that are more striking.
Yeah.
Yeah. What have I missed?
So
Oh,
top, yeah, there's a
this
couple
one.
on the top. So that
This
one
one,
that got pixelated for some reason. I don't know
yeah,
what happened there.
I'm trying to decide if there's a color cast to this too. There's a little bit of green here, that's reflected.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just seems to have an interesting, like, too orange. I know this dog is kind of orange all over, but the greens look right. There's something a little bit off on the white balance, I think. So I would maybe get rid of the green here, but also the ear position. So this dog doesn't look totally comfortable.
Okay.
I don't know. To me, it looks like his ears are back just a little bit, and he's laying in that position where they're about to spring. And it's fine. I'm sure your client would just love this, but I do have some clients who'd be like, no, those ears mean he was listening for something and he was anxious. I find that with some dog owners and some horse owners are like that.
Okay.
So just something to think about there. The client might probably loved it. I love how low you got. I love the non-distracting but still colorful and vibrant backgrounds and foregrounds. There's just something interesting about he looks a little uncomfortable.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. What else? Oh, this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really cool. What I love about this is that the long, tall trees and the long, tall dog.
Yeah.
I think that's great. And it's really difficult to get these dark backgrounds with a light dog. And you did a very good job here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. You could even probably get away with darkening some of the trees back here a little bit more because they're very close to this dog's value.
Yeah.
But otherwise, this is kind of cool and dreamy. I kind of want to go to those woods.
It's one of my favorite locations. Yeah.
And he's really regal. And you can see how his ear position's a little bit different than the last dog. So he looks fairly comfortable, but on alert. I think this would be a really cool print for your clients as well. Yeah. What else have we missed, Lisa?
I think we got...
That was everybody, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Do you agree, disagree? What do you think?
It's so fascinating to me because I mean, thank you. This is very helpful. Like everything else, right? Like especially the one of like, it was intentional to get that sprinkler in the background because I liked the diagonal lines of it in the background. Something a little bit different, right? It's not just in the park. The sprinklers have to be going off that morning. But it's so fascinating that you find it distracting because I think it's like almost like a leading line. So, but I really don't like the pink leash that she's holding. And I tried really hard to get it out of there and I couldn't make it look right.
Yeah, and I think part of it was I looked at this first as a thumbnail, as a small picture, and that was the first thing I saw was this bright line cutting right through her. And I thought, is that a rainbow? No, it's just a sprinkler. So I wasn't sure if it wasn't. I thought it was probably intentional because you were there. Like you're not just gonna let that happen. But I feel like it's not so much a leading line as a cutting her in half line.
Okay, fascinating. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
well, thank you.
Good idea. I think if you had positioned her more over here, maybe if it was kind of surrounding her, it was a little bit different, looked like mist, it maybe could have worked. But I appreciate that you gave it a try.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, clients don't always notice these things. So if your client was totally happy with it, great, show her. But on your website, maybe not.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Woo. Well, thank you for being here. I'm so glad that we got a chance to talk about your business and look at your photos. I think that's important for everybody to do is look at everything. We get sometimes so caught up in the craft of it, like what cameras we're using, what backgrounds, what settings, those kind of things that we don't often put enough thought into the other background things like your sales sessions. Where are they going to be? How much is studio rent? How much buy-in do you have from your loved ones? So I really appreciate the thoughtfulness you've put into everything, Lisa.
Well, I appreciate your time. I know you've got a million things going on. So,
well, I appreciate you agreeing to record this for everyone as well. I think it'll be a good learning tool because I know a lot of people are struggling with the same questions and possibilities.
Yeah, and like I keep saying, it's just such a lonely pursuit, and community I think is just so important.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And we're very, very niche.
Yeah, I still get the, because when I introduce myself, I always say I'm a dog photographer because that's my passion, right? And people always go, huh?
Huh? Right.
You do what?
Yeah,
So
yeah, we know what we're talking about, but
yeah,
it
it's a
it
thing.
catches some people by surprise.
Yes.
Well, anything last minute, Lisa, that you wanted to talk about?
I would like to get some, if I go forward with the studio, I really need to get some like marketing pieces on my website type pieces even before I have the grand opening, right?
Mhm.
Um, I don't necessarily want to contact clients at this point because I'm a little out of practice with studio, so I kind of need something that I, I'm not sure who to tap for that. Any thoughts?
Like as your, like light testers?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
also like, I would prefer them to be good enough that I can put a couple of them on the website and start use them as starting marketing pieces.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, obviously your own pets or friends, um, probably not people that are gonna pay you, but if you're just trying to kind of figure out your lighting and your setup, it's kind of easy to get them to buy in because 'cause they're not paying for anything. They're along for the experiment as well. Friends, family, coworkers even, that might even be a good way to say, "Hey, shelter XYZ, you wanna come by on Saturday and we can photograph 5 dogs." For your adoption portfolio. And also, I'm going to use them for my studio. But I'm not going to charge you, obviously. But this will be a great way to showcase maybe their long term frosters or something. So that's usually one of my first things is friends, family, shelters.
Got it.
Yeah. And
Okay.
obviously, I talk a lot about doing little doll stand ins. So
Oh
if
yeah.
you have a
Well, I
doll,
I I have a stuffed dog named Boca.
there you go. Yeah. Or even like your wife. If your wife or someone or somebody, the other photographer at the studio maybe could sit in to test out, spacing, like how far you should have the lights and that kind of thing. And you can make kind of a fun day of it. Or if you're in a camera club, there might be someone in there who has a dog that's willing to bring them
Hmm,
in.
that's a good idea.
And they would be fascinated with the space as well. So kind of get together with another photographer. So I think you'd probably come up with more than enough.
Yeah.
More than enough people. One thing I would say would be really cool, Lisa, that we don't often think about is that you want, if you go ahead with this and you do some of these test sessions, try to get some behind the scenes so that when you market this studio space, people will say, oh, that's what the space looks like. That's what it's like to work with Lisa. Whether it's a couple of still images, set up your phone or a little GoPro or have a friend come in and get a little bit of video, even just you with your phone. Hey, this is the space we're working in, and you can use it later. So sometimes people get more buy-in if they could see it actually in action. So that's one of the things I'm working on this year too, is more behind the scenes, not just here's the final image, but here's the other things that went into it. So you understand the space and the process. So I would definitely say, as you go with these, ask people if you can get some behind the scenes as well.
Okay.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Phone on a stand, something like that. Yeah. And then you have something to put in that newsletter to your clients. We're about to do this. It's so exciting. It'd be cool to have some kind of grand opening. We'll see what the state of the world is at that point.
Yeah.
But that would be kind of a neat thing to do too.
Yeah.
I've never done a grand opening for mine yet. And I've been there 2 years.
I
But
love it.
oh my gosh, I went full time at my studio, and then we had the holidays, and then I had major surgery, and then we were in lockdown. So I've just never had a time to have a bunch of people in my studio.
Well,
So,
that's kind of the way it goes
yeah.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Did that answer that okay?
Yeah, that
Okay.
was helpful. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up.
All right.
Thanks so much,
Well,
Lisa. Oh, you know what I wanna show people really quick is your website. I wanna show them, check out Posh, PAWSHPHOTO.com. Here is Lisa's beautiful website. Oh, see, now that image looks okay as a banner, but I would switch it out because you got that thing there.
yeah.
But look at how you can see the pictures on the wall. Yeah, this is pretty. This is really pretty. So be sure to check out Lisa's website too, everyone. Oh, so what do you think? Oh, I loved that conversation with Lisa from Posh Photo. Definitely check out her website and her work. It really is lovely. She's doing amazing things, even with the limited amount of time she has to spend. And isn't everybody curious what she ends up deciding? Should she get a studio? Should she not get a studio? What do you think? And that is how these calls go. This was an hour-long call, and that's what we do. It's about usually 45 minutes to an hour. So if you want a one-to-one, either we can talk about your business and talk through some decisions. We can look at your portfolio. I can look at your website. There's all those questions that you have, like Lisa was saying, how it feels like kind of a lonely place sometimes. So I want to be a resource for you. You can go to propetphotog.com and sign up for a one-on-one if you want as well. It's a private one-on-one. Lisa was just very kind to be able to share it with all of you here. So I'm excited to get to know you. In the meantime, be sure to obviously subscribe right here on Propet Photog YouTube channel, but we also have a Facebook group. I invite you to join. That's a free private Facebook group, and we talk about a lot of different things in there that we wouldn't usually put on a public forum or the Q&As and things that we have here on YouTube. It's really a great place. Okay. I think that is it for me today. And at this point, I want to do the outro with Lisa. Thank you so much for being here. And what do I always say at the end of my videos? I don't know if you stick around to the end.
Oh.
Do you remember what I say?
I wish you many woofs, purrs,
and
TREATSs.
That's right. Woohoo! Thanks for playing along on that outro for me.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. And I can't wait to hear what you decide and how it goes down.
I will keep you informed.
Okay. Thank you.
See you. Have a good night.
You too.